If you're someone who seeks motivation, inspiration, or even just the latest updates on what developments are taking place in the world, then you may have heard of TED Talks. TED Talks appear online at www.ted.com. They are video recordings of conferences at which speakers give the talks of their lives, typically about a topic they have in-depth knowledge of. Originally, TED Talks addressed topics concerning strictly technology, entertainment, and design, but have recently grown to include an enormous range of other topics. These topics can be categorized into two subcategories: promotion of individual growth as it pertains to the American dream and its message of individual achievement, and societal growth, or how we as people of the world can grow collectively. In order to be a TED speaker, you must be recommended to TED. You can recommend yourself, or someone else can nominate you. There are no strict guidelines to becoming a TED speaker, except, according to the TED website, you must be able to inform and inspire, surprise, and delight. However, the standards are high. Collectively, the TED speakers have won every major prize for excellence, including the Nobel Prize, the Pulitzer, the Oscar, the Grammy, the Emmy, the Tony, and the MacArthur Genius Grant. As far as the audience for TED Talks goes, the genre is geared toward a broad population of people from all over the world. TED Talks are available to watch online for free in 27 different languages. However, in order to attend a TED conference in person, an admission process is required, which comes with a hefty price tag, which can range from $995 to $2,500. This information comes directly from the TED Talk website. The TED Talk messages hold specific ideals, and these ideals are being promoted all over the world. The globalization of the two subcategories, the American dream and societal growth, are the goals of the Redder. The Redder of TED Talks is the TED board who decides which talks to publish and which to censor, as well as the elite conference members who pay a lot of money to see these talks put on and published. Due to the agenda of these Redders, TED Talks should not be utilized as the sole source for information, inspiration, or motivation, although the TED Talk site is valuable.
Browsing through TED Talks, you'll realize the different topics on the left-hand side of your page. They can range from beautiful to even persuasive. There are many different kinds of talks, yet there's one kind of common theme I've noticed relating all of these TED Talks, and a lot of them refer to this American dream and how if you work hard enough, you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and become rich and famous. And this is referred to as the bootstrap myth, obviously, and doesn't take into the account of the color of your skin or your sex. Not everyone who works hard can reach the top, because many are discriminated against still in today's society. TED Talks, however, they think it's best if they portray the apparent feasibility of reaching the American dream. Let's take a look from a few of them. Now, the first one I found is a story about a woman from Nairobi who has a dream of no longer being poor one day, and she's not alone in her town. Take special notice of the newspaper the little boy is holding, and just notice who's on the front of it. Go ahead, take a look. The title of this talk is called An Escape from Poverty.
It was also the day after the inauguration, and I was reminded how Mathari is still connected to the globe. And I would see kids on the street corners, and they'd say, "Obama, he's our brother." And I'd say, "Well, Obama's my brother, so that makes you my brother, too." And they would look quizzically and then be like, "High five." You know? And it was here that I met Jane. I was struck immediately by the kindness and the gentleness in her face, and I asked her to tell me her story. She started off by telling me her dream. She said, "I had two. My first dream was to be a doctor, and the second was to marry a good man who would stay with me and my family."
So what did you notice? Obama's face on the front page of a Nairobi newspaper, didn't you? What else did you notice? When the woman listed her dream, she said to be a doctor and to find a good man to be a husband. Why do you think she would say these things? I think it's pretty obvious that the dream all Americans and even non-Americans hold is this ideal of a perfect life with a good salary and a good family. It's crazy how even American ideals can trickle their way all across the globe, even into Nairobi. I mean, who would have thought that Obama's face would be on the cover of a Nairobi newspaper? I know I definitely did not expect it. It kind of caught me off guard while I was watching it. And you have to guess that along with his face, his words are printed in there. That means he's spreading his American ideals all over the world. So no wonder this woman has Americanized dreams about wealth and happiness. Also, TED Talks are available anywhere to anyone who has access to a computer. So, since this is the case, the talks are available in 27 different languages. Yeah, that's right, I said 27. So, if the majority of the talks are related to the American dream, how can that ideal not be spread across the world? It's almost impossible for it not to. It's also almost as if America and TED Talks wants other countries to be envious of this American lifestyle and the American dream. They want everyone to believe their ideals, which, like I said, if you work hard enough, you can live a lavish lifestyle. Another clip, let's look at it. It focuses also on the American dream. Before that, though, I'll give you a little background, beginning from the beginning of the clip, because I'm showing you about like the middle of the clip. Steve Jobs, probably know who he is, the creator of Apple, was put up for adoption as a baby, and growing up, he did not have much money to his name. He actually ended up dropping out of college after his first semester because he felt like he was basically throwing away his parents' lifelong earned money. So once he actually dropped out of college, he lived on the floors of his friends' dorms, and he actually still attended classes so he could just learn things. He just took something that interested him. He didn't even know what he was going to use it for later in life. He just went with it. And I want you to pay specific attention to when he talks about how he used to be working in his garage to then all of a sudden owning a $2 billion company. It really reiterates like the fact of the American dream. Just watch it. It's called How to Live Before You Die. So what did you notice? The concept of the American dream again, didn't you? Steve Jobs even said it himself when he said it started out with two guys working in a garage, but after a lot of hard work, keywords right there, they were able to own a $2 billion company. What he doesn't take into account, though, is that he's actually a white man in American society. Things come a lot easier to him because of that. If he were an African-American woman, say, for example, he would probably be having like a lot harder time becoming successful. Comparing him with the Nairobi woman discussed earlier, he became successful and she never really was able to fulfill her dream. At the end of the clip, it talked about how she never really became a doctor or found the husband of her dreams. Everyone can dream the American dream, but who really accomplishes it? It's mostly white men. Something very interesting, though, to note about TED Talks is I was looking up articles about them, and they actually rejected a speech about income inequality in America, which specifically goes against the American dream because they're saying there's inequality, and even if you work hard enough, you won't be able to achieve this dream because of it. According to Stephen C. Webster, a writer for The Raw Story, he says,
TED Talks curator Chris Anderson said a talk given in March by multimillionaire Seattle venture capitalist Nick Hanauer was one of the most politically controversial talks we've ever run, according to emails obtained by National Journal reporter Jim Tankskerly. In the speech, which included a series of slides, Hanauer explained where the true wealth of market societies lies, saying that he's confident rich people do not create jobs and neither do businesses.
I find it extremely interesting that a majority of these TED Talks focus on the bootstrap myth, and when something different like this comes along, it gets shot down. So what's the big picture? Why does this all matter in the grand scheme of things? Well, for starters, TED Talks are joining in on the American dream myth. I mean, everyone can have dreams, but not everyone can reach the top by just working hard. There are still too many discriminations and stereotypes in today's society in order for that to happen. Some, yeah, they can reach the top, but others, mostly white men, can reach it with much more ease because of their ethnicity and sex. Maybe TED Talks should be incorporating more income equality in their stories to show the truth, shouldn't they? Or should we just continue to ignore the fact that these discriminations and hatred still occur today? Your choice.
Some TED Talks reinforce the accepted ideals of American culture, such as the standards that in order to be happy you must be successful, in order to be successful you must work hard, and that hard work includes changing and improving upon all aspects of your life. Even though many TED Talks can be found to support our traditional beliefs, There are also many TED Talks that challenge our acceptance of these standards. For example, Meg Jay does a TED Talk on why 20 is not the new 30. She addresses 20-somethings and uses her psychology expertise to convince them to get serious during their 20s because it's one of the most important decades developmentally. Recently, men and women have been getting married later and finding their dream jobs in their 30s. As a result of this, 20-somethings take this time to have fun, date around, and not take their careers seriously, which is now an acceptable path according to social norms. Rather than supporting this ideal, Meg Jay contradicts these views. In her talk, she states, "I want to change what 20-somethings are thinking and doing," and she uses her 15-minute talk to oppose what the majority of Americans have accepted as true. This talk spurred a lot of discussion on the site and in other realms of social media. The response to the TED Talk includes many different viewpoints, including those who agree with Jay and those who don't think she was able to convince them out of their previously accepted views. Jay's response to these debates addresses the notion that these young-age people do not care about their future. She says, "People underestimate how interested 20-somethings are in the topic. Part of the cultural myth is that they don't care. It isn't just parents emailing me their thoughts, it's 20-somethings themselves." There's no concrete way to gauge how her talk has changed the habits of the 20-somethings who have viewed this video, but the controversy and discussion surrounding her TED Talk proves that many people have been thinking about this topic after her talk was published. Currently, the most viewed TED Talk is done by Ken Robinson on the subject of how schools discourage creativity and why it's detrimental to our students. With over 19 million views, this talk has prompted a lot of debate on a topic that hasn't always been seen as controversial. The education system is a huge entity that has progressed enough in the years that people do not regularly question the way we educate our students. Teachers stand in front of the room and lecture because that's the way we think students learn. Guidance counselors tell students to choose the path that will lead them to financial success because that is what we think will lead to happiness. Up until now, we have accepted these facts and didn't see any reason to question our education system. In his talk, Ken Robinson says, "All kids have tremendous talents, and we squander them ruthlessly." This quote is particularly contentious because no one wants to believe that they are doing anything to support the ruthless treatment of children, but he argues that the stifling nature of our education system is bad for our kids and needs to be reevaluated. Changing the education system is a daunting task that requires much support and funding. Therefore, only small steps can be made in order to make his ideal education system a reality. The platform of the TED Talk was a great way to raise awareness of his cause and get people talking about changes that need to be made rather than accepted the established conventions of our society. A presentation by Susan Cain explores the personality of introverts and the power they can have when usually people are only encouraged to be outgoing. YouTube videos on the subject have titles such as Overcoming Shyness Part 4 and Why Label Yourself a Shy Introvert. This exploration of multiple personalities and ideas is what makes some TED Talks eye-opening and innovative. Although TED Talks that defy established ideals of our country might take some criticism, the effect that they can have in our society is great. We were given the right to free speech and should be encouraged to speak our own ideas. We are not always conditioned to question the world around us, so the TED Talks that address non-conventional issues lead us to examine what we are told.